Hi, this is Laura Holyoke, and I have a PowerPoint for you, talking a little bit about your fourth paper, which covers explaining how culture and change are managed at Pixar. Schein talks about, and what I would like for you to use, really the general idea, is Lewin's theory of change, which is unfreezing, changing, and then refreezing. Or technically, Lewin said it was just to freeze. So when you unfreeze, you ensure that employees are ready for change, if it's an organization. You execute the intended change, and then you ensure that it becomes permanent. Lubin says, if you want to truly understand something, try to change it. I think for purposes of this paper, it may be easiest or perhaps most straightforward to look at culture change, or the change, if you will, of what happened when Disney actually took over Pixar, but it was Pixar moving into Disney because of the leadership and how that worked. So if you think about that and then talk about these issues. So creating motivation to change, that is unfreezing. Schein covers this in both books, section 4. First, creating some disconfirmation. He talks about creation of survival anxiety and guilt, that the learning anxiety also produces resistance to change, and then how important it is to create psychological safety. So you'll notice that some of these are more prominent than others at Pixar and Disney, that I think Catmull did a pretty good job of maintaining psychological safety throughout. And that the learning anxiety may not have been as pronounced as it is in most cases when culture change is undertaken. The second step is learning the new concepts and setting new standards. That's the changing process. So imitation and identification with role models, what it is that we want to look like. It's what we're shooting for. And then also some solutions. It could be trial and error, learning, testing, and then finally to internalize the new concepts, the new meanings, and the new standards, what they are going to look like in our organization. That is the refreezing. So that's incorporated into self-concept and identity for organizations, as well as incorporating into ongoing relationships. Something that I like to keep in mind, and I think the next two visuals that I have show this pretty clearly. If you look at this pyramid, on the left side at the bottom is most difficult change, and at the top is the easiest changes to make. And then on the right side you see the durability of change. So short-term change is easiest, long-term change, lower right and then lower, is the most difficult change. Physical changes, the processes that we go through, the tools that we use, and structures are the easiest thing to change in organizations. We can change desks, layouts, offices. We can change the letterhead that we use. We can change reporting structure pretty easily. As you start to get more towards the infrastructure, the strategies that we use, systems that are embedded, measurements, and the rewards that happen, we start to, those kinds of changes are a little bit more difficult to make. You have to have people on board a little bit more. And we're looking more towards long-term, as well as the amount of time that it takes to make these changes. Going deeper, behavioral changes, that what groups and individuals do, the expectations of them. And then finally, cultural change. So to really change deeply held assumptions, values, beliefs, and norms takes, so cultural change from the experts takes 3 to 5 years. And it's often difficult. I wanted to also mention that not all cultural change is good. That if you take a step back and look at a place where you've been in the past, and maybe it wasn't as good as when you worked there, that is probably cultural change. And oftentimes, I mean, culture does change. It's not ever stagnant, but it changes over time. So the easiest way to see that is to uh, really look back at something over time. So here's the same concept, only a little bit more in Schein's words. You can see that, so easiest and short term at the top, and then most difficult and long term at the bottom. But these are stated in Schein's uh, cultural cultural frame, cultural words, if you will. So technical is really the artifacts that you can see are easiest to change, to tell people to clear their desks, to tell people how they are going to approach one another. Dress is a real easy it's an artifact to change. And then you can see espoused values and then behaviors. So what we value, what we say we value, and how we carry those out are harder to change. And then finally, again, underlying assumptions. So shown another way in terms of time required and magnitude of desired change can go easily from skills, very easy to change, systems, and then structure, then strategy used, and finally culture. You're talking about years of change. People don't change until the pain of not changing becomes greater than the pain of changing. I wanted to mention this and talk about it a little bit. Um, when we talk about organizational cultural change, we're talking about every individual in the organization changing. And think about how hard it is for you to change something. And oftentimes we don't really change until the pain of not changing becomes greater than the pain of changing. This isn't because we're bad people or we don't like change. Most of us are often so overloaded that introducing a change means that we have a learning curve to undertake, and we may not feel like we have the time to do that. So resistance to change is often founded. So it's not unfounded. Like, you know, some people are indeed grumpy and don't want to change. But if let's say, for example, you were told that a brand new software system is going to be implemented next week that you need to learn. and so if you have no time to train or no time set aside to do that, you may be a little bit resistant to that change. That's all I have for you. Thank you very much.